Hi, this is Kingsley. So I'm sure by now you've seen the review of this phone, the Infinix Zero X. If you haven't, I'll leave it up here in the YouTube card. You can go watch that video after this one. The main selling point of the Infinix Zero X and the Zero X Pro is definitely this 60x periscope lens and the 108 megapixel lens on the Pro model. From a technical perspective, for you to fit in lenses that are as large as this ones into a phone, you have to do some major design changes. And I'm sure you didn't notice, but if you've seen the reviews of the Zero X, the SIM tray actually looks a bit abnormal from what you regularly see on an Infinix phone. And there are a lot of interesting things I think you guys might want to see inside this phone. So let's go in and find out. So as usual, if you've watched my previous teardown videos, you already know how I work. I'll just use a razor and try to create an incision by the side of the device. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. Most people will use a heat gun for this kind of work, but personally I don't use a heat gun, mostly not on mid-range phones that have plastic frames or plastic backs and all that, because plastic is plastic and plastic will definitely melt or it will definitely stretch when it comes in contact with heat. So I'd rather do it this way, so when I want to assemble the device together, everything will sit perfectly well. Usually to open a device like this will take me about 2 minutes maximum to open it. Like when I opened the Tecno Phantom X, it took me about 2 minutes, or let's say a minute and 40 seconds to take off the back glass. But this one took me over 7 or 8 minutes, and the reason is because the adhesive that is used to glue this back glass to the frame of this device is super hard. And mind you, this is the first time I'm opening this device on camera. I've not opened it before, so I don't know if there are ribbon cables lying at the back of this glass. I don't know what is actually underneath there, so I am being super careful here not to yank off any cables or not to cut off any flex cables that I don't know about or that might prevent the device from working again. After about 7 minutes, I was able to take off the back glass of the phone. So this is the back glass. I don't know what the official Gorilla rating is. I have seen a lot of them, but I'm not really sure which one is right, so I don't want to give you wrong information. But the glass feels really solid, even though it will still break if it falls on the ground. So if you buy this phone, you gotta be careful. So coming back here to the main carcass of the phone, you see why I had to be careful while I was taking off the back glass. Now there is a flex cable here that definitely connects the main board to the subboard, and there is another one here that connects the fingerprint reader to the main board. If I was not careful, I went crazy in trying to force off the glass, then I would have definitely yanked off one of these cables, and then some things will stop working on the phone. So I'll remove the 18 screws that are holding the entire carcass of the phone together. So here's the plastic/metal plate that is holding the upper part of the phone together, and there is also a connector here for the earpiece. So here's our first look at the main board and the cameras on the carcass of the device, and if you look closely here, you observe that only the cameras alone are taking about 20 to 25% or even 30% of the total space inside the device. So I'll take out the SIM tray here for us to have a look at it. If you look closely at this SIM tray, you would notice that it's actually different from other SIM trays. It's a little bit more compact, and I think they actually designed it this way because of the little amount of space or the limited amount of space inside the device. So we're going to take off the 3 additional screws here that are holding the main board to the carcass of the phone. And we also unclip the network cables here. There are 2 network cables, one is for the first SIM and one is for the second SIM. And instead of building the Wi-Fi chip on the board or the Wi-Fi antenna on the board, just add a little Wi-Fi antenna by the side. And so this is what is responsible for you getting Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and other wireless connections on the device. And then now we're going to go ahead and take off the main board from the carcass of the phone so we can take a closer look at the cameras and also the board itself. So as I mentioned earlier, the board is actually a little bit smaller than what we're used to, and these camera sensors are really huge. That is why this board is so small. So we're going to unclip these lenses here and take a closer look at them, starting off here with the 60x periscope zoom lens. Now periscope lenses are usually used in submarines, and so it's actually great to see this technology coming to smartphones. Periscope lenses are usually large sensors. That is why if you notice devices from Samsung and Huawei that use periscope lenses, the phones always have a camera bump because they carry large periscope sensors. Next up, we're going to look at the 64 megapixel main lens. Now this is a very large sensor. That's why the images from this phone are usually super bright. According to the specs of the Infinix Zero X, the Infinix Zero X has optical image stabilization, but for some reason the lens does not seem to have stabilization built in. So I don't know how they are actually achieving the optical image stabilization with this device. I guess I'll have to find out more. Probably there's a new technology that I'm not aware of. So moving on, this is the 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, and it actually takes very good pictures. Finally, for the cameras, this is the 16 megapixel front facing camera lens. It is a very tiny lens. So coming back here now to the main board of the device, I see that there is a lot of thermal paste all over the board, and this is unusual for an Infinix phone. You usually find thermal paste at just one spot. So I want to find out what is underneath this place that requires such an enormous amount of cooling. So after taking up that metal plate, I discovered that there are two chips under here. The other one is the MediaTek Helio G95, which is the chip that is powering this device. But I couldn't tell what the other chip was. But I discovered it was made by SK Hynix, and Hynix is a Taiwanese company that makes RAMs and memories for devices for companies like Samsung, Xiaomi, and the rest of them. So I went to their website and then input the chip number there, and I got to find out that this chip actually serves as the RAM and also the ROM. So phone manufacturers actually use this chip when they want to save up a lot of space inside the device. They use this single chip, which is both the RAM and the ROM, and this chip is capable of up to 6 to 8 gigabytes of RAM. So in other words, this is a 2-in-1 chip. And if this chip is doing both the work of the RAM and the ROM of the device, that means it's going to be heating up. So that is why the chip requires so much cooling, and that was why there was so much thermal paste under it. Coming back to the carcass of the phone now, this is the earpiece, and one thing you're going to discover here is that it's a very tiny earpiece. This earpiece does not require a cutout at the top of the device, so that's why you won't find an earpiece grill on the Infinix Zero X. This is the same kind of earpiece technology that Samsung uses on the S series. So the next thing, we're going to take off the main speaker here. This is just a regular speaker. It sounds good but not so great, and it's just a single firing speaker. This device does not have stereo speakers. So the next thing, we're going to take out the battery here, that 4500 milliamps battery. And I discovered something here. Infinix actually added pull tabs to this battery, which is actually surprising because normally they don't add pull tabs, and even when they do, it doesn't work. But on the Infinix Zero X, something else has happened. It actually works. So here's the 4500 milliamps battery, and it's just a regular battery, nothing really special. So here's what the entire carcass of the device looks like with nothing inside. And if peradventure you want to get a screen replacement for this phone, this is how the screen is going to come. And just so you know, the screen of this phone is going to be costing somewhere between 50 to 60,000 naira, which is around $100 to $120. So if you buy this phone, you got to be careful, or else you're going to spend plenty of money to get it fixed. And remember, if you haven't watched the review of the Infinix Zero X, again, you can check the link down in the description, or you can check up here on the YouTube card and go and watch that video, right? So you guys let me know down in the comments, are you really impressed with the build quality of the Infinix Zero X?